Well, guys, today's going to be a little bit different because it's not exactly futsal news we're talking about today, but a concept that we believe is impacting futsal development, not only in here in the US, but around the globe. So I want to start by referencing a podcast that was done several years ago between Steve Austin and the Steve Austin Show podcast and his guest at the time, Paul Heyman. Now, before you turn off this video and go, what does pro wrestling figures have to do with futsal? Hear me out. Paul Heyman was talking about his time in ECW as he ran that company and some of the choke points that were challenges to him to keeping the company up and running before it went out of business in 2000. And he talks about what the three main factors are and what they do to a business and how it impacts the growth of that business. Now, although it's not pro wrestling, futsal is a form of entertainment. And so I think it's really important to reference these things, especially here in the United States where there are budding leagues that are only a few years old, to consider as they're trying to get the word out to the people. Let's listen in.
A choke point is, where can the deal go off the rails?
Okay.
Where can this get choked out?
Okay.
What's your kill zone?
Gotcha.
If you don't have enough talent, you don't have enough content, you don't have enough to fill that hour of a program, or 2 hours or 3 hours of programming, whatever the case may be, then you don't have content. So you now are a content provider. If you have no guests for your podcast, you're going to sit here and give a WrestleMania preview or a post-show wrap-up because you had no one to talk to. You need constant flow of new guests for your podcast because that's the content you are providing.
Right.
Okay. What are the other two choke points? What are the other two strangleholds? Where can it go off the rails? If you don't have this, there's no gas to fill the engine. Well, there's two things. One, financing. If you can't afford the tape recorder, if you can't afford the microphone, if you can't afford to then take this recording and digitalize it and put it out on a platform, then you don't have the money with which to forward your vision of a podcast. So when people have a movie to do or a TV show to do or a wrestling promotion, if you don't have financing, there's no promotion. The other, again, choke point is distribution. Now, I can have $10 million to produce a television show, but if nobody will put it on the air for me, I'm going to lose that 10 million because it won't air. And if it doesn't air, how do I promote my events? How do I promote my pay-per-views? Why would anybody give me money for a license? The video game companies won't give me money. I have no way to promote their product. Why would anybody buy a t-shirt if they don't know that the wrestler wears the t-shirt? How many people would have bought the Austin 316 t-shirt if you were on local access, Cox Cable, Harrisburg, Pennsylvania? You sure wouldn't have any merch checks coming from Kansas City, St. Louis, Chicago, Detroit, Las Vegas, Reno, LA, San Diego, all around the world. You made all that money in that merch because Vince had distribution of his television show to where people saw you wear the Austin 316 shirt or the what shirt, and they said, I want to buy that too.
So, guys, three choke points, all three of them kind of interlace with each other when you're thinking about the landscape here in the United States and maybe in some other countries that are still developing the sport. Think about the first one, content. The sport is the content. When you think about it that way, it's very seasonal. It's hard to keep people engaged all year round. But I think one thing that can be done that makes things more interesting is to add the individuals to the content. When I think about teams here, it's hard for me to identify players that I know and become fans of because the content really is just the sport right now. I think that other countries do a much better job. I think of Argentina. I think of Spain. I think of Portugal. These are places where the sport is really big. It's obviously much more developed than it is here, but I can identify favorite players. I think of Nico Sarmiento playing for Real Betis in Spain. I think of Franco Grillo, one of my favorites when he played here in the United States, now at SECLA back in his home country of Argentina. I think of Kai Bone in the FA series in England and how he has caught my attention in my heart with his plays and his goals that he scored as a goalkeeper because of the way that the content was displayed to me with commentary, names. I'm able to get it invested in the players, not just the teams. And you fall in love with people that way. And that all comes down to the distribution. That's where it interlies. Distribution of the content has to be of a high quality. cell phone footage at half court is not good enough. Jumpy Wi-Fi connection is not good enough. People are going to log in, be frustrated in the first 10 seconds, and log right back out and find something else to watch. Probably a rerun of something they've already seen on YouTube. And finally, financing. Perhaps financing is what's keeping that distribution getting from a higher quality level than where it is right now. But unfortunately, a lot of futsal leagues, particularly here in the United States, are still in that chicken before the egg discussion on improving the sport here. And maybe there isn't quite the financing behind it. So as countries that are in their offseason now are developing futsal, I implore them to consider this offseason how they're going to distribute their content, how they're going to finance it, and how they're going to keep people engaged in the sport. I hope that they consider this through the offseason and also know that there are people out there, particularly in our Discord on Futsal News, if you want to go there and find them, that want to help give a clean distribution and content of the sport to the rest of the people and share their love and passion for the sport like I am on this channel. So I hope you guys consider this and sound off in the comments below on what you think is holding futsal back in the development in the United States and in North America and the rest of the world. Or join us back on that Discord channel so we can talk about it offline. But guys, until next time, don't forget to play with your soul.